To get her hands on my family's free pork, my mother-in-law had her youngest son marry me, the butcher's plump daughter. After the wedding, I toiled away without complaint, until my husband's older brother died in an accident. He went to the provincial capital to bring back his homeless sister-in-law, and was gone for 5 whole months. When he returned, his sister-in-law was already pregnant with his child. My mother-in-law tried to persuade me, "Chingha, you're a bit heavy, and it's hard for you to conceive. Think of this as Shachuan leaving a legacy for his brother." My husband held me and coaxed, "Once the baby is born, I'll send her away. You're the only one in my heart." Everyone expected me to throw a fit and then reluctantly give in, but in my past life, it ended with my husband and his sister-in-law conspiring against me. They sold me off to settle a gambling debt. My father pawned his butcher shop to save me and had both his legs broken, and they took my compensation money, along with the child and my mother-in-law, to the provincial capital to enjoy life. This time, when my husband pushed his sister-in-law in front of me, I handed him a divorce paper and a long bill, 3 years' worth of pork money, principal and interest, not a penny less. Otherwise, it's time to sharpen this butcher knife of mine. The moment Lu Shachuan pushed the door open, my vision blurred. The woman following him wore a brand new blue floral cotton dress. Her hair was slicked back neatly, and her face was powdered with vanishing cream. With one hand, she supported her slightly rounded belly, and with the other, she clung tightly to Lu Shachuan's arm. I looked down at my own faded, threadbare clothes, then at my own plump figure, exactly the same as my previous life. I died, beaten to death in that pitch-black coal mine, but now, I am alive again, living in the afternoon 3 years ago. "Chingha, let me introduce you," Lu Shachuan said, his voice tinged with nervousness. "This is your sister-in-law, Zhao Shuan." Zhao Shuan looked up, her voice soft and timid. "Sister-in-law, I have nowhere else to go." Mother-in-law Wang Guifan hurried out from the kitchen, her face beaming with a wide smile. "Oh, Shuan, you're back. Come in, have a seat. You must be exhausted from the journey." She pulled Zhao Shuan to sit on the kong, her eyes darting toward me. "Chingha, what are you standing there for? Hurry to your father's shop and fetch some meat to nourish your sister-in-law." I didn't move. A scene from my past life suddenly flashed through my mind. In my past life, I believed Zhao Shuan was carrying my elder brother's child, so I attended to her every need with great care. It was only after she gave birth that Lu Shachuan, in a moment of cruel mercy, revealed the truth. The child was his. I raged, I protested, until finally, my heart turned to ashes. Using the child as her leverage, Zhao Shuan gradually seized my dowry and possessions. She even spread rumors of my infertility, ensuring I could never hold my head high within the Lu family again. In the end, at Zhao Shuan's instigation, I, deemed worthless and without further use, was sold by a debt-desperate Lu Shachuan into a black market coal mine. My father sold our only pork shop to pay off my debt, saving me, but his legs were broken and he lay on the bed on the verge of death. "Chingha," the mother-in-law raised her voice, "are you deaf?" I looked up and stared at Lu Shachuan. "Whose child is this?" Lu Shachuan stammered, "Naturally, it's ours. Explain yourself." I cut him off sharply. "Your elder brother died 5 months ago, and she's clearly only just become pregnant." Lu Shachuan, "Did it really take you 5 months to travel to the provincial capital for his funeral?" He stared at me uneasily, his eyes betraying guilt, along with a hint of defiant confidence. My mother-in-law hurried over and took my hand. "Chingha, your sister-in-law is pregnant and all alone now. We can't just abandon her. You're not built for easy childbearing. Think of this as Shuan leaving a legacy for your brother. Shachuan only has the Lu family line in his heart. You can't be so selfish, can you?" Lu Shachuan approached with an awkward smile. "Once the baby is born, I'll send her away. You're the only one in my heart." He reached out to embrace me, but I sidestepped to avoid him. Zhao Shuan lay on the kong, gently stroking her belly as tears streamed down her face. "Sister-in-law, I know this is hard for you, but I truly have nowhere else to go. I promise, I'll leave as soon as the child is born. Nothing will ever happen between Shachuan and me." Her voice trembled as she put on a show of being deeply wronged. My mother-in-law immediately went over to her, full of sympathy. "Don't cry, Shuan. It's not good for the baby. Chingha is sensible. She won't make things difficult for you." All eyes were on me, waiting for me to give in, waiting for me to cry a little, make a scene, and then meekly accept it all. Just like I did in my past life, I pulled 2 sheets of paper from inside my coat. One was a divorce agreement, already signed, and the other was densely covered with numbers. "Chingha, what is this?" Lu Shachuan's face went pale. I slapped the bill down on the table. "For the past 3 years, your family has eaten nearly 200 pounds of pork, over 100 pounds of pork bones, and 100 pounds of lard from my butcher shop, at current market prices, including principal and interest, all rounded up to a total of 300 yuan. Pay me back, the mother-in-law shrieked. Are you crazy? Do we really have to pay for meat within the family? A family? I stood up. Your son had a child with another woman. Do we still count as a family? Zhao Shuan's face turned pale, clutching her stomach tightly. Lu Shachuan was anxious. Qinghe, don't make a scene, let's talk it out. I turned and walked towards the kitchen, picking up the gleaming butcher knife from the cutting board. Clang, I slashed into the surface of the 8 Immortals table with a knife, splinters flying. The entire room fell silent in an instant. Lu Shachuan and his mother-in-law backed away in fright, while Zhao Shuran nearly slipped off the Kong. I pointed to the bills and divorce papers on the table. Either pay up and get a divorce, or I'll show you today that this knife of mine isn't just for cutting pigs. 2. Lu Shachuan rushed forward in a rage to grab the bills, but I twisted my wrist and slammed the back of the knife hard against his hand. His wrist instantly swelled red, and he crouched on the ground, groaning in pain. Seeing her son come off worse, the mother-in-law immediately threw herself on the ground, kicking and screaming. Heavens above, he married a butcher's daughter, fat, ugly, and a jealous shrew to boot. Our Lu family must have been cursed for 8 lifetimes, she cried and cursed at the same time. Look at all that fat on you, you're fatter than a pig. Shachuan, marrying you was the luck of your past life. And now you dare threaten us with a knife. Lu Shachuan clutched his wrist, both shocked and furious, but he dared not approach. Eyeing the knife in my hand, Zhao Shuan was crying even harder now. Sister-in-law, it's all my fault, I shouldn't have come back, I'll leave now. Please don't be angry with Shachuan. Before she finished, she stumbled toward the door. My heart tightened. In my previous life, she had pretended to leave like this. After Lu Shachuan chased after her and returned, he claimed she had a miscarriage scare and forced me to kneel and apologize. That familiar sting of humiliation washed over me again, but this time, I wasn't falling for it. I turned and went back into the room, starting to move my dowry out, the sewing machine, the quilts, the thermos flasks. I wasn't leaving a single thing for them. My mother-in-law sprang up to block my way. Lu Qinghe, what do you think you're doing? Where are you taking all this? These are all my dowry. I coldly looked at her. Since you despise me, I'll leave. Lu Shachuan chased Zhao Shuan back and saw me moving things. His face turned green. Qinghe, you're still my wife. Don't make a scene, let's talk it out. They blocked the doorway, refusing to let me out no matter what. The commotion grew louder and louder, drawing all the neighbors out to see what was happening. I stood in the middle of the courtyard, pushing my sewing machine, and shouted at the top of my lungs. Lu Shachuan got his own sister-in-law pregnant, and now he expects me, Lu Qinghe, to be the fool, to be cheated on, to slave away for his mistress, and to support his whole family of freeloaders. I'm putting my foot down today. This marriage is over. The crowd instantly erupted in an uproar. Lu Shachuan's face flushed crimson. What nonsense are you spouting, Qinghe? Have you lost your mind? The mother-in-law was hopping mad with anxiety. That's my eldest son's flesh and blood. Don't you listen to her wild accusations. Zhao Shuan covered her face and wept. It's all my fault. I'm too ashamed to show my face. As he was about to ram his head into the wall, Lu Shachuan and his mother-in-law quickly stopped him. I took the opportunity to push the sewing machine out. As soon as I stepped out, I bumped into someone. Looking up, I saw Gao Feng, the owner of the grain and oil shop across from my dad's butcher shop. He glanced at me and then at the chaotic courtyard of the Lu family. Need any help? I shook my head. No need, I can move it myself. Pushing the sewing machine, I walked away without looking back. From behind me came Lu Shachuan's furious roar. Lu Qinghe, you get back here. We're not divorced yet. You're still a member of the Lu family. My mother-in-law's insults grew even uglier. You fat cow, you're not divorced and nobody wants you. Sooner or later, you'll come crawling back begging to serve us. I pushed open the door to the butcher shop. My father looked up at the sound. Qinghe, why have you brought the sewing machine back? Looking at my father's graying hair and the thick calluses covering his hands, I remembered the horrific scene from my past life. His legs broken while trying to save me. I couldn't hold back any longer and threw myself into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Dad, I want a divorce. 3. I told my father about the Lu family situation. He looked at me, his eyes filled with heartache. He didn't preach any grand truths, just patted me on the shoulder. It's good to have you back. Dad's shop is still making money, and I'll take care of you. No worries about food or drink. The news of my departure from the Lu family spread through the village the next morning. I hear Lu Qinghe was divorced for being unable to bear children. Serves her right. Look at her fierce, terrifying face. If it were me, I'd divorce her too. I stood at the meat stall chopping meat, listening to the gossip behind me, the sound of the knife hitting the chopping board echoing loudly. In my past life, hearing these words would have made me deeply ashamed. Now, they just sound harsh. I put down the cleaver and turned to face those gossiping women. Well, aunties, now that you all know I've been divorced, you might as well come buy some meat. They were taken aback. I continued, starting today, we have a daily special, 1 gene of meat, buy 3 gene, get 1 gene of bones for free. Auntie Wong's eyes lit up. Really, of course it's true. I'm in charge now, and I mean what I say. In less than half an hour, the stall was surrounded by people. I lost my mother early in life, and my father raised me single-handedly while running a butcher shop because I'm overweight, and I've always looked fierce helping out at the butcher shop since I was a child. I've never been able to get married after a lifetime. I no longer feel inferior about my body. Every early morning, I follow my dad to the slaughterhouse to pick out the best pigs. I started losing weight, not to please anyone, but for better health and the strength to wield the knife with my help. The pork shop's business has never been better. Without my subsidy, the Lu family is struggling to make ends meet. The fact that mother-in-law and Zhao Shuan couldn't even afford a decent meal with meat was the spark that ignited the conflict. On the third day, mother-in-law arrived with Lu Shachuan and Zhao Shuan in tow. "Qinghe, dear," mother-in-law said with a forced smile plastered on her face, "what's a little family squabble? You're still a daughter-in-law of the Lu family." I didn't look up. Continuing to chop the meat, she saw that I ignored her and her face darkened. "How can you be like this, child? We came to see you, and you don't even say a word." Lu Shachuan took a step forward. "Qinghe, let's talk. What is there to talk about?" I chopped the meat with a swift motion, turning it into a messy pile of white flesh. "About the child you had with your sister-in-law." Zhao Shuan stroked her belly and said aggrievedly, "Sister-in-law, I know you're upset, but this meat stall has always belonged to the Lu family. It's not too much for us to take a piece of meat, is it?" Before I could finish speaking, I slammed my knife down hard on the chopping block. The entire market fell silent. "The Lu families." I looked up. "This shop belongs to my father. What does it have to do with your Lu family?" My mother-in-law spoke with conviction. "Once you married into our family, you became one of us, and the shop naturally belongs to us as well." As she spoke, she reached out to take the meat. I held my knife horizontally, blocking her way. "If you want the meat, pay for it, you." The mother-in-law's face turned purple with anger. "I'm your mother-in-law, you ungrateful wretch." Zhao Shuan sobbed beside them. "Sister-in-law, the child in my belly is starving. Have pity on us." The crowd of onlookers is growing. The uninformed masses all think I'm being unreasonable. This Lu Qinghe is way too much, treating her mother-in-law like that. Exactly, her sister-in-law is pregnant. In my past life, I cared too much about these idle rumors, always giving in, and ended up with my family destroyed. This time, I don't care anymore. I directly poured a basin of bloody water from washing meat at their feet. "What are you crying about? Carrying another man's child, and you still have the nerve to act pitiful in front of me." Zhao Shuan's sobbing came to an abrupt halt. Lu Shachuan's face flushed crimson. "How dare you spout such nonsense? That's my elder brother's child." "Nonsense," I sneered. "Lu Shachuan, your brother has been dead for 5 months, and she's only 3 months along. Can't you do the math?" The onlookers began to whisper among themselves, their gazes toward Zhao Shuan growing increasingly dubious. I said loudly in front of everyone in the market, "You think Lu Shachuan married me for what? It's all for the meat from my family. In the past 3 years, the Lu family has eaten nearly 200 gene of meat from my family for free, totaling 300 yuan owed. Now that Lu Shachuan has gotten his sister-in-law pregnant, he still wants to continue eating and drinking for free. Where in the world can you find such a good deal?" The crowd's gaze toward Lu Shachuan turned contemptuous. "Marrying a wife and getting free meat, what a great deal. How can the Lu family eat so much?" My mother-in-law trembled with rage. You crazy woman. How dare you speak ill of us in front of all these people?" She lunged at me to hit me, but I held her off with the kitchen knife in my hand. "Wang Guifan, take one more step and see what happens." Just then, Gao Feng arrived carrying a bag of rice and witnessed the whole scene. He glanced at the blood water on the ground, then at the disheveled Lu family, and said to Lu Shachuan, "Paying debts is a matter of course. A grown man shouldn't be making a spectacle of himself here." Embarrassed by Gao Feng's words, Lu Shachuan couldn't stay any longer and had to leave with Zhao Shuan and his mother. Looking flustered before leaving, his mother shot me a vicious glare. "Just wait, there will come a time when you'll beg us, for without my subsidies, the Lu family is truly living in hardship." They forgot that before marrying me, the Lu family was already destitute. and Lu Shaochuan couldn't even hold down a decent job. Zhao Shuan, made fussy by her pregnancy, lay in bed groaning all day, constantly demanding this and that to eat and drink. Her mother-in-law, lazy by nature, was flustered and overwhelmed trying to wait on her, and the two of them argued every single day. But someone had to do the housework. Without me, the free live-in maid, Lu Shaochuan had to come home from work every day and cook and do laundry. Utterly exhausted. To make matters worse, he was completely broke. The gambling addiction I had ruthlessly suppressed in my past life began to resurface. It started with just the occasional small stakes game, losing a few bucks here and there, but the losses grew, and he sank deeper and deeper. That day, he lost over $30 again. His card-playing buddies were pressing him for the money, and Lu Shaochuan was pacing around in a panic. He crept into the butcher's shop, looking flustered and shifty-eyed. I could tell at a glance he'd been gambling again. "Qinghe," he whispered, lowering his voice, "lend me some money, it's urgent." I kept chopping the ribs, not even looking up. "Borrow money? You've got some nerve, just 30 bucks. I'll pay you back in a couple of days," he said, his eyes darting around. "I'm your husband, isn't it normal for a couple to lend each other a little money?" I looked up at him, remembering how in my past life he had knelt before me, weeping and swearing he would never gamble again. My heart softened, and I gave him money. But as soon as I turned around, he lost it all and even sold me to a coal mine to pay off his debts. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but laugh. "What are you laughing at, Lu?" Shaochuan asked, clearly annoyed. I kept chopping the meat. "No money, impossible," he snapped, getting agitated. "I know exactly how much this stall makes in a day. That's my father's stall, not yours." Lu Shaochuan frowned, his gaze settling on me. "I've been working out and doing manual labor every day lately, and my body has become much more toned, wearing a white tight tank top. I'm drenched in sweat but glowing with vitality." His eyes were glued to me. Suddenly, he grabbed my hand and started groping it. "Qinghe, I was wrong. You've become so beautiful now, and I'm very satisfied. Let's go home, and we can have a good talk tonight." I pulled my hand away. "Stop touching me. Your family has nothing to do with me, Qinghe." His face flushed with desperation as he stepped forward again, unwilling to give up. "I know I was wrong. Truly, I can give up the child. I can send Zhao Shuan away." Just as he spoke, Zhao Shuan, heavily pregnant, came hurrying after him. Seeing Lu Shaochuan shamelessly pestering me, she burned with jealousy, her eyes turning red. "Shaochuan, what are you doing?" she asked, clutching her stomach. "I'm in terrible pain, and you came running to her." Lu Shaochuan hastily took a few steps back. "Don't jump to conclusions. What do you mean just?" Zhao Shuran was gasping for breath through her sobs, wanting to abandon us. "Lu Shaochuan, are you even human?" She clutched her stomach, as if she were about to collapse at any moment. Lu Shaochuan didn't have time to care about me. He quickly went to support her. "Qinghe, wait for me." He turned back and shouted, then helped Zhao Shuran leave. I continued chopping meat, feeling better than ever. With Zhao Shuran causing such a scene, Lu Shaochuan found it even harder to borrow money. That evening, creditors came to demand payment, causing chaos at the Lu household. 3 days later, Zhao Shuan and her mother-in-law huddled together, whispering and scheming. "That fat pig is living better than we are. It makes my blood boil," the mother-in-law said through gritted teeth. Zhao Shuan stroked her belly, a malicious glint flashing in her eyes. "Mother, I have an idea." "What idea?" "Since she refuses to come back and serve us, we'll just have to ruin her business," Zhao Shuan said with a sinister smile. "I heard she keeps over a dozen pigs in her backyard. What if they were to suddenly die? Who would dare buy sick pork? Once her reputation is ruined and her business fails, she'll have no choice but to come crawling back to us." The mother-in-law's eyes lit up. "You're so clever. Just as I'd expect from my good daughter-in-law." They wasted no time. They bribed some local thugs to sneak into my pigsty in the dead of night and poison the animals, hoping to force me back into servitude for their family. 5. But they forgot. I grew up in a butcher's shop. What tricks haven't I seen? I was already prepared. I installed an old alarm my father found in a corner of the pigsty, connected to a bell in my room. The phone rang out in the dead of night. I grabbed my boning knife and charged outside. I caught the thug red-handed, just as he was pouring rat poison into the trough, cornering him in the pigsty. "Freeze!" I slammed the knife down right by his feet. The thug flinched in terror, spilling the rat poison all over the ground. Spare me, I'll tell you everything." He knelt on the ground, crying as he confessed everything about Zhao Shuan and his mother-in-law's instructions. "I didn't call The police. I directly took him to knock on the village secretary's door as soon as dawn broke. The entire village knew. The village secretary, accompanied by militiamen, dragged 3 people out of the Liu family's house and confronted them in public. The ruffian confessed everything in front of the whole village. It was the Liu family's old woman and that widow who instigated me. They gave me 10 yuan to poison Lu Qing his pigsty. The village secretary was so angry his face turned black. You Liu family members, you are truly vicious. The mother-in-law still tried to deny it. Nonsense, we didn't do such a thing. The village secretary slammed the table. Witnesses and evidence are all here, and you still want to deny it, destroying collective property and maliciously poisoning. This is a crime that will land you in jail. Zhao Shuwen's face turned pale as she clutched her stomach tightly. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. Lu Xiaochuan was pacing in distress. Secretary, there must be some misunderstanding here. Misunderstanding, I sneered. You want to ruin my business and force me back into being a free nanny. What a great plan. The thug immediately produced the deposit they had given. With both witness and evidence intact, Lu Xiaochuan's face alternated between green and white. He wanted to say something, but the words caught in his throat. The village had announced in public, from today onwards, all activities of the Liu family in the village will be subject to supervision. The Liu family's reputation is completely ruined. Zhao Shuan was so furious that she suddenly crouched down on the ground, wailing, my stomach hurts, I'm going into labor. Blood trickled down her legs. Lu Xiaochuan panicked and quickly carried her on his back, rushing to the clinic. How could he afford to see a doctor? The doctor was pressing for a deposit. But Lu Xiaochuan searched his pockets and couldn't even come up with 10 yuan. In the end, we had to pawn the watch I bought him. When we got married, Zhao Shuan gave birth prematurely to a frail son. The baby cried nonstop from birth. There wasn't enough breast milk, and we couldn't afford formula, so we had to feed it rice soup. During Zhao Shuan's postpartum period, her mother-in-law wouldn't even buy an egg. Lu Xiaochuan looked gloomy every day, watching the hungry baby, regretting it deeply. As for me, I lost 30 pounds and completely transformed. The woman in the mirror had striking features and a strong, toned body. From years of hard work, the young men in the village often found excuses to buy meat just to get a few extra glances at me. I improved my sales approach and introduced new products like braised pork, sausage, and marinated pig trotters. Business was so good that demand far exceeded supply, and I even took over the shop next door. Gao Feng often came to help. He didn't talk much, but he was reliable and hardworking. Qinghe, you're really coming into your own now, my father said, his face beaming with pride as he looked at the thriving business. With his back against the wall, Lu Xiaochuan returned to his old ways and slipped into the town's underground gambling den. His luck was good at first. He won a few dozen yuan, bought Zhao Shuan some tonics, and that kept her quiet for a while. Thinking he'd found a new source of income, Zhao Shuan began ordering him around. What about the baby's formula money? I need to eat some ginseng chicken to nourish myself. Lu Xiaochuan's gambling escalated, and he was blinded by his losses. He soon gambled away the family's last bit of money and ended up deep in debt to loan sharks. Debt collectors began knocking on their door, and the Liu family's life became utterly unbearable. The mother-in-law carried the crying child, going door to door in the village begging for a loan. But who would be willing to lend money to the disgraced Liu family? Zhao Shuan sat on the bed, gazing at the bare, impoverished room with empty eyes. She was filled with regret, but it was already too late. Lu Xiaochuan knelt before the creditor, beaten to a pulp. If you don't pay within 3 days, I'll sell your wife and children to settle the debt. 6. It rained all day long. The Liu family was driven to the brink by loan sharks, and the mother-in-law came up with one last desperate plan. She held her newborn grandson and knelt at my door. Qinghe, please save us. Her voice was especially pitiful in the rain. It's all our fault. It's all because of our greed. The rain mixed with tears, turning the old woman into a drenched mess. I stood under the eaves, watching this once arrogant old woman, my heart unmoved. I shouldn't have coveted your family's meat, shouldn't have forced you to come back and serve us. The mother-in-law shifted forward, holding the child. Qinghe, look, this child is still so young. Without milk powder, they'll starve to death. The onlookers held their umbrellas, pointing and whispering, the Liu family deserves it. Oh, how pitiful, the child is so young. What if he gets sick from being caught in the rain? Look at this child, still so little, and already he has to suffer along with us. Wang Guifan held the swaddled infant out toward me. For the child's sake, please save the Liu family. I looked at the infant in the swaddling clothes. In my past life, he grew up to be a hoodlum, stealing from the family, beating the elderly, not a single redeeming quality. For this child, I felt not a shred of pity in my heart. She shoved the child into my arms, and I instinctively caught him. The child was very light, emaciated, and his voice was hoarse from crying. "Look at him, he's starving," Wang Guifan exclaimed, slapping her thigh. "He's innocent." The onlookers were stirred up emotionally. "The child is indeed pitiful. We're all family, why be so heartless?" Just then, my dad came out of the house. "Qinghe, what's wrong?" The sight of my father snapped me back to reality. I shoved the child back into Wang Guifan's arms, turned, went inside, and retrieved the divorce papers I had prepared long ago. "You want me to pay?" I said coldly. "Fine." Wang Guifan's eyes lit up. "Really, where's Lu Shaochuan?" I looked around. "Over there." Someone pointed to the back. Lu Shaochuan was hiding in the corner, too afraid to come over. I walked over and slapped the divorce papers in front of him. "Sign here to sever all ties. I'll give you $100 to treat this child, otherwise, not a penny." Lu Shaochuan looked at me, his eyes flickering with complex emotions. I now have a slender figure and radiant appearance, far from the fat woman who was once despised. He hesitated. "Shaochuan." Wang Guifan rushed over and slapped him. "Why are you hesitating? The family is waiting for the money to save a life." Lu Shaochuan looked at the divorce agreement, then at me. "Qinghe, can we talk about this again?" "There's nothing to discuss." I handed him the ink pad. "Either sign and get the money, or keep getting harassed by creditors." "Mom's right." He gritted his teeth. "Money is everything." He reached out and pressed hard on the divorce agreement. The bright red handprint on the paper made the onlookers gasp. "Is it really over?" I took out the money and threw it on the ground. "From now on, we have nothing to do with each other." Wang Guifan cast aside her dignity, bent down to pick up the money, counted it several times, and only then, satisfied, tucked it into her bosom. "Qinghe, you're such a kind soul," she said, and with the child in her arms, she turned to leave. I called out to stop her. "Wait." She looked back, a glimmer of hope still in her eyes. "Next time you come looking for trouble, it won't be $100 that fixes it." I glanced at Lu Shaochuan. "And you, since you've chosen Zhao Shuan, don't come bothering me anymore." Lu Shaochuan's eyes were filled with regret. "Qinghe, actually enough said." I turned and walked towards my dad. "Dad, let's go inside." My dad reached out and patted my shoulder. "Daughter, you did the right thing." The door slammed shut. The sound of the rain, the crying, the chatter, none of it matters to me anymore. I am finally free. 7. With the $100 I gave him, Lu Shaochuan rushed straight to the town's gambling den without a backward glance. My mother-in-law held the wailing baby and waited at home the entire night. At daybreak, Lu Shaochuan stumbled back home, reeking of alcohol and empty-handed. "Where's the formula? Where's the money?" Zhao Shuan sat up in bed, glaring at him fiercely. Lu Shaochuan avoided her gaze and mumbled, "Bad luck, I'll definitely win it back next time." "What?" Zhao Shuan exploded instantly, rushing over and slapping him twice. "Did you gamble away the money for our child's treatment?" Lu Shaochuan was stunned by the blows, and the alcohol buzzed in his head, causing him to throw a punch back, hitting Zhao Shuan in the face. The two wrestled into a chaotic scuffle, with tables and chairs crashing to the ground. The mother-in-law held the child, hiding in the corner, cursing filthily. "It's all your fault, you jinx. Ever since you married into our family, we've never had a good day." Zhao Shuan's hair was disheveled, and blood from her nose was dripping down the corner of her mouth. "If it weren't for your sweet-talking deception, would I have followed you back? Old hag, you're just a greedy old witch. How dare you insult me?" The mother-in-law was trembling with rage, pointing at Zhao Shuan. "You shameless thing, carrying another man's child, and you still dare to be arrogant in front of me." Lu Shaochuan kicked over the stool, his eyes bloodshot. "Shut up, all of you." The room was in complete disarray, and the child's cries were growing fainter. Zhao Shuan looked at this broken home, her gambling husband, and her harsh mother-in-law, and her heart turned completely cold. A man came to her mind before marrying the eldest Lu brother. She had been involved with a man from the neighboring town. His name was Wang Gang, a ruthless loan shark. Though he had treated her decently enough while Lu Shaochuan was asleep, Zhao Shuan quietly retrieved the last item of value in the house, the silver bracelet her mother-in-law used to wear. She was going to find Wang Gang not to borrow money to pay off the family's debts, but to screw Lu Shaochuan over. She intended to borrow money, take the child, and disappear for good, leaving the Lu family in ruins. Zhao Shuan sought out Wang Gang overnight and laid out the entire situation with the Lu family from start to finish. Wang Gang's expression turned intrigued. "Lu Shaochuan," he suddenly laughed, "that deadbeat who owes us $300. Zhao Shuan was stunned. "What did you say?" "The money he owes. It's from our loan operation." Wang Gang stroked his chin. "Interesting." The whole family's conveniently gathered. He snapped his fingers, and two burly men emerged from the corner. "Since you've come knocking on my door, don't think about leaving Wang Gang stood up. That good-for-nothing Lu Shaochuan can't pay up, so you'll just have to settle the debt for him. No, Zhao Shuan tried to run, but was pinned down by two burly men. The next evening, Wang Gang came to the door himself. Lu Shaochuan opened the door, saw Wang Gang's grim face, and his legs went weak. Brother Wang, can you give me a few more days? Wang Gang pushed him aside and strutted into the courtyard. The old woman, holding the child, shrank into the corner, not daring to breathe loudly. Extend the deadline, Wang Gang sneered. Your wife came to see me yesterday. Lu Shaochuan's face turned deathly pale. What did she say? Said she wanted to borrow money to run away with the kid. Wang Gang pulled out a cigarette and slowly lit it. Thought I'd go easy on her for old time's sake. How naive. Now, this is your last chance. Wang Gang blew a smoke ring. Bring $300 here by 8 tomorrow night to get him back. You're short even a single cent. Your whole family disappears. He turned to leave, but paused at the door and looked back. Oh, and a friendly reminder, the connections I have in this town, you don't want to mess with them. The mother-in-law cried heartbrokenly. What should I do, my dear grandson? It's all Zhao Shuan's fault. Lu Shaochuan slumped to the ground. $300. Where could he get $300? 8 at 1 in the morning. The sound of a dog barking woke me from my sleep. I grabbed the kitchen knife by the pillow and quietly made my way to the backyard. Under the moonlight, Lu Shaochuan was picking the lock on my door. Get lost, you damn dog. Gao Feng's big wolfhound was circling him, baring its teeth. I held my breath, hiding in the shadows as I watched him wildly swing the stick. The wolf dog, provoked, clamped down on his calf with a bite. Ah! Lu Shaochuan screamed in agony as he fell to the ground. His pants instantly dyed red by blood. The wolf dog refused to let go, and he writhed in pain on the ground. Help, somebody, help. I stepped out of the shadows, the kitchen knife in my hand glinting coldly under the moonlight. Lu Shaochuan, you really don't shed a tear until you see the coffin. His face turned pale as he saw me and the knife in my hand. Qinghe, I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. I gave a sharp whistle, and the wolfhound finally released its grip. I raised my knife, making as if to strike. Lu Shaochuan scrambled up in a panic, dragging his bloodied leg, and fled with a hobbling gait. News reached the village the following evening. Wang Gang, along with a few hired thugs, had surrounded the Lu family home. I was packing up when I heard heart-wrenching cries coming from the Lu household in the distance. Time's up. Where's the money? Wang Gang sat on a worn-out chair in the Lu household, smoking. Lu Shaochuan knelt on the ground, blood seeping from the wound on his leg. Brother Wang, give me a few more days. A few days. Wang Gang flicked his cigarette ash. Don't you want your wife and kids anymore? The mother-in-law huddled in the corner, too scared to make a sound. Zhao Shuan was pushed in by two enforcers. Seeing the dilapidated home, she suddenly laughed hysterically. Ha ha ha, Lu Shaochuan, look at you. She laughed until tears streamed down her face. What am I even with you for? For a life of hardship and scraps, to be looked down upon by everyone. Lu Shaochuan crawled over, trying to grab her hand. Shuan, let's live a proper life together, I promise. I'll make money. Zhao Shuan kicked him away. You useless waste. What can you do besides gamble? I've finally seen you for what you are. Without Lu Qinghe, you're nothing. Wang Gang watched them as if enjoying a spectacle. All right, that's enough. $300, not a cent less. The mother-in-law suddenly sprang to her feet, pointing an accusing finger at Zhao Shuan. It's all your fault, you jinx. If you hadn't seduced my son, Qinghe would never have left. Zhao Shuan sneered. I was living perfectly fine in the provincial capital. You're the ones who begged me to come back to have a child, you shameless hussy. The mother-in-law lunged forward to strike Zhao Shuan, but was blocked by a bodyguard. Enough. Wang Gang stood up. Since you can't come up with the money, don't blame me for what happens next. He gave a signal to his thugs with a glance. Lu Shaochuan trembled with fear. Brother Wang, please, just a few more days. I swear I'll get the money. Wang Gang sneered. Yeah, right. Let's start with a beating. In the chaos, Zhao Shuan was shoved to the ground, knocking over the kerosene lamp on the table. The flame instantly leaped up, igniting the tattered curtains. Fire! The thugs panicked. Wang Gang cursed. Damn it! They scrambled to get out, and just before leaving, Wang Gang snarled, if they can't even pay back the money, just let them burn. The door was locked from the outside. The fire inside the room grew fiercer, the thick smoke stinging their eyes until they could barely keep them open. Lu Shaochuan pounded on the door, shouting, let us out, let us out. The mother-in-law sat on the ground, clutching the child she had just snatched, weeping in despair. Zhao Shuan's eyes were vacant. It's all retribution, she said. I stood in my own courtyard, watching the black smoke rising from the Liu family's house in the distance. All the neighbors rushed to fight the fire. I didn't move. Gao Feng walked over to me. "Aren't you going to take a look?" I shook my head. "It has nothing to do with me." The glow of the fire lit up half the sky, and the cries gradually faded. 3 days later, someone from the town government came to see me. "Are you Lu Qinghe? We need to know some details about the Liu family's fire." I took out the divorce agreement and handed it to them. "I have no connection with the Liu family." The government officials took the agreement, glanced at it, nodded, and left. A month later, I calculated the money I had saved and partnered with Gao Feng to take over the largest shop in town. We opened a comprehensive store that included grain, oil, fresh meat, and braised food. The 3 golden characters of willow and maple gleamed in the sunlight, more eye-catching than any other shop in town. Business was booming on the very first day. Standing behind the counter, watching the steady stream of customers, I felt a sense of ease I'd never known before. I even roped my dad into coming to help. Gao Feng moved between the shelves, restocking, tidying, and greeting customers. Occasionally, our eyes would meet. He'd give a nod, and I'd return a smile. A customer asked curiously, "Boss lady, I heard you were once married into the Liu family. What exactly happened to them?" I kept my head down, slicing the meat. "The Liu family, don't know them." Sunlight streamed through the glass window, illuminating the cash register as crisp bills rustled in my hands. Past lives and memories have all turned to ashes. A new chapter is just beginning. The end. That's it for the first story, but don't go away. The next one is even more exciting. My son is forcing me, at 55, to go on a senior dating show to earn money for his betrothal gift, but I simply can't bear the humiliation. I thought my husband would speak up for me, but instead, he mocked me. "For over 30 years, you haven't earned a single penny for this family, and you're always making excuses when it comes to helping your own son, as if those old men would actually be interested in you." The father and son teamed up, using every form of silent treatment to force me to give in. Completely disillusioned, I snapped and went off on the show. To my surprise, it unexpectedly made me famous, enrapturing countless middle-aged tycoons into falling for me. My son and husband are begging me instead. "The betrothal money is already saved up. Can we stop now?" I shook my head. "But I haven't saved enough for my dowry yet. My husband retired last month, and we planned to travel to the Gobi Desert together 20 years ago. My father died far from home while guarding the border. I've always wanted to see the place he once protected." Unexpectedly, my son Qingman handed me a contract to sign. "Mom, I signed you up for a dating show for middle-aged and older people." I playfully patted my son on the shoulder. "I'm happily living with your dad. Why would I need to date? You're being disrespectful with your jokes." My son rubbed his hands together sheepishly before finally speaking up. "They're paying 3,000 just to meet an old man. Jia Rue and I are planning to get married this year. As the future mother-in-law, you really ought to show some initiative yourself." Qingman deliberately emphasized the word yourself. My hand, holding the dish, faltered for a moment. "Everyone knows I've been a housewife for decades. All I had on me was the leftover money from today's grocery shopping. A mere 35 bucks. I spoke up and refused. "I can't do something so indecent." Qingman frowned. "It's all fake. You're not really sacrificing your dignity. It's just chatting with those old men, and the money comes in." My son's entitled tone was so infuriating that even someone as patient as me couldn't help but lose my temper. "Have you even considered what would happen if this got out? Where would that leave my dignity?" My husband, Qing Xingli, happened to return from his evening stroll at that very moment. I thought he would scold our son when he found out, but instead, he turned around and tried to talk me down. "What are you worried about when I don't even care? You haven't earned a single cent in over 30 years. Isn't it a good thing to help your son out?" I clenched my fists, trying my best to calm myself down. "You can disregard my dignity, but don't you remember, you promised me you'd go with me to see my dad in a few days?" Qing Xingli was completely unconcerned. "When can't we go see the old man? Besides, he's already gone. Shouldn't we focus on the living first?" I slammed the apron down on the table. "My dad didn't die, he sacrificed himself." I turned around and went back to my bedroom, where the conversation between the father and son could be heard outside the door. "Is my mom going through menopause? She's so irritable." The husband comforted his son. "It's okay, I have a way to handle her. She'll agree sooner or later." The father and son refused to talk to me for days in an attempt to make me yield. The meals I left for them were reheated again and again, yet they emanated a chilling coldness and glinted with a frosty light as the food in the fridge gradually ran out. I had no choice but to initiate a conversation with Qing Xingli. "Give me some money. I'm going out to buy groceries later." I repeated myself 3 times before Qing Xingli finally put down the watering can. My money isn't just blown in by the wind, that retirement pension is being saved for my son's wedding. He slowly transferred 20 yuan to me, not forgetting to remind me, save your money. I stood at the butcher's stall for a long time, but didn't dare ask for any meat. I only bought a few handfuls of greens and some dried noodles. I knew Qing Xingli was doing this on purpose. He was trying to force me to submit by cutting me off financially. After all, this trick works like a charm for someone like me who has no income and no retirement security. Thinking about being in my 50s and still having to live at the mercy of others, a wave of bitterness surged in my heart. I don't even have anyone to confide in. For decades, I've almost entirely devoted my energy to taking care of my family, socializing, making friends. These things seem too extravagant for me. I took out the bank book my father left me from my dowry box. There's a total of 400,000 yuan in severance pay, which I've saved for 20 years, and it matures in 3 months with the interest included. There's nearly 800,000 in there now. I haven't told a soul about this money. It's the security my father left me. I had planned to use part of it to help my son when he got married, but it seems that's no longer necessary. At dinner, the whole family was finally gathered around the table. They unilaterally declared the end of Cold War punishment. Qing Man brought up the past again. Mom, have you decided? The show starts in a week, and the contract will be void if you don't sign it. Seeing my continued refusal, Qing Man poked at the noodles in his bowl in a pouting manner and complained, "Is the brine too weak?" Qing Xingli shot me a disdainful look. "Our son is already exhausted from work. As a mother, you don't even want to help him with the financial burden, let alone handle basic housework." With a blank expression, I picked up the bowl of sauce and turned to walk into the kitchen. "I'm going to add some salt." Qing Man's voice wormed its way into my ears. "Dad, look at Mom. She never bothers to dress up. Just lies around all day doing nothing. Our family's good fortune, all enjoyed by her alone." Qing Xingli was full of disdain. "Other women either know how to make money or manage a household. How many like your mother who can't do either?" They talked about me as if no one else was around, each word cutting into me like a dull knife. "It won't kill you, but it sure hurts." My hand slipped, and I poured way too much salt from the bag. Qing Man took a bite and immediately spat it out with a tui, too salty again. "I'm not eating this. Let you and me go eat out, son." I stuffed the remaining noodles into my mouth one by one. "It really is salty. I just can't tell if it's my tears or my taste buds that are salty." I married Qing Xingli at the age of 23, after giving birth to Qing Man at 25. With no in-laws to help, I had no choice but to work while raising the child entirely on my own. The hardest 2 years were when Qing Xingli's company sent him on extended business trips out of town. A male neighbor, seeing us as a vulnerable widow and her child, would often come to our house after drinking and spout all sorts of nonsense. Qing Man was still little back then, but his small frame would always position itself protectively in front of me. "Get out of here. Don't you dare lay a finger on my mom." As soon as Qing Xingli got home, the first thing he did was grab a kitchen knife and rush over to the neighbor's house. "If you ever dare to bully my wife again, I swear I'll hack your whole family to pieces, even if it means rotting in jail for the rest of my life." We were dirt poor back then, but I had my 2 pillars of strength to look at. I felt an immense sense of peace and security. I, too, learned to be a gentle mother and a devoted wife. This peaceful life continued until my mother-in-law suffered a cerebral hemorrhage. I was forced to quit my job and cared for her for 10 years. After my mother-in-law passed away, my father-in-law suffered a stroke. This caregiving lasted for another decade and a half. Without an income, I'm like a toothless tiger. When my father left, my in-laws pointed at me, and my children held me back. I couldn't go and pick him up myself. This has become a thorn in my side. But all these years, all I got in return was Qing Xingli using the living expenses as a threat to impose rules on me. I can only coax out the living expenses when he's in a good mood. Later, whenever I didn't do things according to Qing Xingli's wishes, he would resort to cold violence against me until he wore down all my spirit and temper. Whenever I questioned this marriage, he would create some small moments of sweetness for me in his push and pull. I let him control my life for half a century. My son is following my example, and my respect for him is diminishing. I used to wait and hope. I thought that once my in-laws were taken care of, my son grew up, and my husband retired, everything would be fine. But now I know, I may never be okay. My efforts mean nothing in their eyes. The future I foresee is this: I'll be raising my grandchildren, catering to my husband, and looking after my son and daughter-in-law until I'm squeezed dry of my last ounce of worth. My heart feels heavy, as if stuffed with cotton. I didn't notice the water stain on the kitchen tiles while clearing the dishes and took a heavy fall. The utensils in my hand shattered all over the floor. I fell once when I was 8 months pregnant with Cheng. and this time my old back injury flared up again. It took me a long time to recover, and I carefully moved to the sofa to lie down after the father and son entered the house. They saw the kitchen in complete disarray. Ching Man stepped over the broken glass, full of blame. "Mom, I'm not saying this to criticize you, but at your age, how can you still be so clumsy? You didn't even clean up this broken glass. What if someone gets hurt?" All the pent-up emotions finally erupted at this moment. "You know I'm getting on in years. From the moment you walked in, it's been nothing but criticism. Why don't you ask if I'm hurt?" Ching Man was visibly taken aback, just as a look of guilt was beginning to form in his eyes. He heard Ching Xingli let out a strange cry. "Guan Yunhui, are you doing this on purpose?" "So I said the food was too salty. Is that any reason to go slamming things around? That cup of mine came in a pair, and you broke one. How unlucky." I squinted my eyes. "Breaking one is unlucky. Huh." I picked up the other cup from the coffee table and smashed it to the ground. I gritted my teeth and retorted, "Now both are broken. Is that lucky enough, seeing me like this?" The father and son both exclaimed that I'd lost my mind. My son went back to his room, and Ching Xingli slept in a separate room. No one cared how I felt, but I was thrilled. I never knew how liberating it felt to just let go and act crazy. The consequence of my breakdown was that from then on, the father and son treated me as if I were invisible. After injuring my back, I found it difficult to move around. I spent the rest of my money on instant noodles and bread. By the weekend, when I finished the last pack of instant noodles, my back was almost healed. The house was already piled high with takeout boxes, smelly socks, cigarette butts, dirty clothes, and a stinking trash can. The shattered cups and plates lay scattered across the kitchen, much like our crumbling home. After tidying up the house, I woke up the father and son who had been sleeping in. "I'd like to discuss with you both about appearing on a matchmaking show today." A triumphant smile spread across Ching Xingli's face. Ching Man, who had been drowsy, perked up immediately upon hearing my words. "You've finally come around." I nodded, then turned to Ching Xingli with one last shred of hope. "You're talking about a 200,000 betrothal gift. It's not like we can't afford it. Could you please not make me lose face in front of everyone?" Ching Xingli was beginning to show faint signs of impatience. "You're always eyeing my measly pension. That's our emergency fund for both of us. We shouldn't touch it unless we absolutely have to." I still wasn't ready to give up. Jiawei didn't mention the bride price, so why should we pretend to be rich? Ching Xingli slammed the table heavily a few times. "They may not ask for it, but we can't not give it." My heart ached. "But he had promised me when he married me. I can offer it to you willingly, but you cannot demand it." I stared intently at the two most important men in my life. I knew then that I had lost my pillar of support. The physical exhaustion I could still bear, since they've shown me no decency whatsoever. There's nothing left here for me to cling to rather than serving these ungrateful wretches. "It's better to make a fresh start," I said calmly. "Then let's proceed with the divorce as stipulated in the contract. We'll split the assets 50-50. Ching Xingli became instantly alert upon hearing about the property. "A fake divorce? What's the point of dividing property?" I casually made up a lie. "I'm afraid you won't want to remarry me after the show is recorded," Ching Man urged anxiously. "Dad, just agree already. It's not that big of a deal." Ching Xingli shot me a contemptuous look, but agreed nonetheless. Back then, they needed me. Now, it's me who needs them. He was sure I couldn't bear to leave this family. On the day we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our divorce certificate, I finally learned that Ching Xingli had a full 600,000 in savings, and that was the balance after he'd already paid in full for our son's apartment and car. 300,000 of it was transferred directly into my account on the spot. I knew then that my days of enduring, of just putting up with it, were finally over. For the first time ever, I cooked up a whole feast. Consider it our farewell dinner. Ching Man got the result he was hoping for, and he was absolutely beaming. He even stopped picking on my cooking. "My mom's cooking is incredible. Her sweet and sour pork ribs are to die for." Ching Xingli was like a doting father who thought of everything. "This crispy fried pork is really good. Jiawei loves this dish the most. Don't forget to pack some extra later for our son to take to her." To the outside world, Ching Xingli was always a good man. It's just that his kindness was selective, tailored to the person. The son has grown up and can support him in his old age, so he flatters him. The daughter-in-law is capable and can bring him face, so he fawns on her. To him, I am the least useful in this family. Therefore, he humiliates me while still expecting me to obey him unconditionally. I've already got my divorce papers, so why on earth should I put up with his nonsense? I picked up the whole plate of crispy fried pork. "Well then, don't eat any. Save it all for Jiawei." Ching Xingli was starting to get annoyed. "Can't you do a bit more?" I sneered. "You give me $20 for living expenses. And you expect me to cook a full banquet for you after saying that? I ignored the father and son's disgusted expressions and started packing my own luggage. It's laughable, really, the whole wardrobe full of clothes, and hardly any of them are mine. Even fewer than 2 sets are suitable for going out. I threw them all out, including the silk scarf Qingxingli gave me for the first time. The 2 father and son realized I was angry, but they continued eating and drinking as usual. The next day, Qingxingli surprisingly didn't go out to dance or play chess. He watched me carrying all these bags out, looking visibly anxious. Isn't it a bit much to take everything with you when the show is ending in a month? My tone was light and cheerful. I'm not planning to come back, so of course I need to take everything with me. It would be a hassle to come back for them piece by piece later. Qingxingli suddenly stood up. What did you say? You're not coming back? Who will wash our clothes and cook for me and my son? Perhaps it was my cold gaze that made Qingxingli change his tone. What I'm saying is, this is your home too. If you don't come back here, where else would you go? So he knew I had nowhere else to go. No wonder he felt so free to bully me. If I don't leave myself a way out, I'll truly be enslaved by him until the day I die. I waved the divorce papers in my hand. Don't you remember? We're divorced now. From this point on, my affairs are no longer your concern. I walked away without looking back, with Qingxingli's roaring voice behind me. You've gone too far, Guan Yunhui. Don't come crying to me later, without me supporting you. You'd starve to death on the streets and no one would care. I turned around and kindly reminded him, oh, by the way, I own half of this house. If you want to keep living here, you'd better cash out the remaining amount for me. I smoothly joined the recording crew. The matchmaker dressed me up meticulously, and I was momentarily stunned looking at myself in the mirror. Time has left many unkind marks on my face, but traces of my youthful charm still linger. I was taken to the home of a 60-year old divorced man. Zhao Ligua's eyes lit up when he saw me. Within a few words, his true nature was revealed. The girl is quite pretty, and honestly, I don't have high expectations for my partner, as long as she can handle social gatherings and sleep in a big bed. Would you like to experience my massage technique? This guy started talking dirty to me right away, which made me extremely uncomfortable. I endured Qingxingli my whole life, but I won't tolerate any other disgusting man for a second. I've decided to just go crazy. Is the boss having a professional relapse? Look at the few hairs you've got left on your head, and the way you talk without any energy. With your skills for unclogging drains, you should first try unclogging your own brain. Zhao Ligua shamelessly leaned in closer to me. Don't let my weak voice fool you. I save my energy for the night. 2 or 3 times a week is no problem. I looked him up and down with a mocking gaze. What's the matter? Can't deliver on quality, so you're trying to make up for it with quantity. My 2 sentences completely broke Zhao Ligua's composure. His mouth was full of such foul language, it was practically X-rated in the end. He even grabbed my hand. You're staying at my place tonight. I need to prove myself to you. I yanked my hand back and took a step away. The force sent Zhao Ligua stumbling, his footing so unsteady he nearly flew halfway down the street. I ducked behind the cameraman and yelled, give him a close-up. I'd love to see what buried treasure he's got on that pathetic little plot of his to be so damn cocky. My outburst threw the whole scene into chaos. Shouts, curses, and the sound of things being thrown around filled the air. Hong Yang helped me back to the car and asked with concern, Auntie, are you alright? I felt a bit awkward. I'm fine, but that guy inside is probably furious with me. Won't that be a bother for you? Hong Yang clapped her hands. No, Auntie, you were amazing just now. With that clip, our show is guaranteed to be a hit. I had no idea that old man inside was like that. Someone like him needs someone like you to put him in his place. I was completely baffled. And that's supposed to go viral. The matchmaker went on to explain it to me again. This is called crazy literature, and it's particularly popular among young people nowadays. I twitched my mouth corner. Oh, really? Times have really changed. In our day, we called this behavior throwing a tantrum. No matter what, I really feel at ease now. I've been suppressing my negative emotions for too long. If I keep holding back, something will go wrong. After what just happened, I feel like a lot of the pent-up frustration in my chest has dissipated. My video went viral as soon as I posted it. Many netizens have said, I really admire this auntie's mental state. Some also question my hypocrisy. As if I haven't experienced enough at this age. Now that I'm on the show, I'm still acting shy instantly. Netizens jumped in to back me up. What's wrong with a woman in her 50s standing up for herself, no matter her age? It's never an excuse for some men to cop a feel. Some even said they were going to memorize all my fiery comebacks from the show to use in their own arguments. Reading the comments, it suddenly hit me. Back in my youth, I was known for being quite the spitfire myself. Ching Xingli is a state-owned enterprise employee. He needs a wife who is steady, reserved, and understands propriety. For all these years, I've been suppressing my true nature. I've been playing the part for so long, I've forgotten who I originally was, but my true self. Someone did like that person. The matchmaker has set me up with another blind date according to the contract. As long as I don't meet someone I like, she can keep arranging potential matches for me. The matchmaker kept reminding me, don't hold back. Just be your authentic self. This date is younger than the last one, around my age, but their looks leave a lot to be desired. I couldn't help but make a sarcastic remark. You look quite different from your photos, don't you think? Feng Bo was unfazed. Good looks don't put food on the table for a man. What really matters is financial stability, I replied with complete sincerity, but it's so unappealing. It'd ruin my appetite just looking at it. Feng Bo let out a cold, disdainful snort. You women are all the same. Say one thing and mean another. My monthly pension is 3 or 4,000. I can eat pork ribs and chicken drumsticks whenever I want. Haven't eaten yet. I'm afraid the aroma will knock you out. In the future, when we're together, you'll be in charge of taking care of me, giving massages, washing my feet, cooking meals, and so on. I struggled to suppress a laugh. You're spending quite a lot, but expenses are high these days. Look, a burial plot alone starts at 50 grand. After covering basic living expenses, you'd have to tighten your belt for what? 8 or 10 years just to save up. By then, you might not even be able to afford to die. Feng Bo's face turned ashen with rage. I heard you don't even have a pension. How dare you laugh at me? I shrugged, unconcerned. It's fine, I have savings. Feng Bo was utterly humiliated, declaring we were not a good match as expected. I went viral again after the show aired. I even landed an endorsement deal with a brand for seniors. The show also raised my fee to 10,000 yuan per date, calling it compensation for my emotional distress. Of course, the next one was just as much of a character. The production team basically used me to crack the code for viral content. As soon as I appear on the show, the ratings skyrocket. I didn't expect Ching Xingli, who was usually so aloof, to suddenly show up at the production team with his son and his son's girlfriend. Stop recording and come home with me. Ching Xingli grabbed my arm roughly as soon as he arrived. Even Tian Jiarui, his son's girlfriend, couldn't stand it anymore. Uncle, please talk it out calmly, don't resort to violence. My gaze lightly swept over Ching Xingli. His clothes were wrinkled, and his hair wasn't as neatly combed as before. It seems his quality of life has been mediocre lately. What does it have to do with me? Don't touch me, ex-husband. Ching Xingli finally lost his usual elegance. Do you even realize you've humiliated me to the core? I stared at Ching Xingli and spoke, enunciating each word deliberately. Back when I didn't want to come to the blind date, you were unhappy. Now that I'm taking it seriously, you're still unhappy. Just what is it you want from me? Ching Man chimed in from the side. Mom, your show is so popular that the whole neighborhood knows about it. Dad's colleagues and friends are all laughing at him. He's even afraid to step outside the house now. Looking at Ching Man, the son I raised from childhood who is becoming more and more like his father, I feel increasingly disappointed. Isn't this exactly what you deserve? The problem is, I'm making 10,000 a day now. Are you really willing to let me go? With your salary, could you even afford the penalty for breach of contract? The moment his own interests were threatened, Ching Man immediately fell silent, just like his father. To put it nicely, he knows how to read the room. To put it bluntly, he's selfish. The atmosphere hit a deadlock for a moment, until Tian Jiarui took the initiative to break the ice. Ching Man, uncle, you two go back to the car first. I need to have a good talk with Auntie. I really like Jiarui. This young lady, she comes from a good family and is very well-mannered. When you think about it, it's actually my son who is lucky to be with her. My tone softened when speaking to the young girl. Sorry you had to see our family drama. I never expected Tian Jiarui to be focused on something completely different from me. Auntie, is it true you're divorced? Seeing me nod, the little girl got so excited she started pumping her fists. Then suddenly grew bashful. Well, I've seen all those less than ideal candidates you've been meeting lately. None of them are good enough for you. My dad's been single for years. If you're looking to meet someone, I really think you should consider him. Tian Jiarui understood every single word, but something about the whole sentence just didn't sit right. I quickly covered her mouth. Jiarui, dear, Auntie knows you're a good girl. Some things just aren't meant to be said out loud. The young girl's face flushed bright red with frustration. To be perfectly honest with you, the reason I'm willing to be with Ching Man is entirely because of you. My mother passed away when I was very young. I've never known what a mother's love feels like. I'm truly envious of how gentle and caring you are with Chingman. I thought to myself, a mother-in-law is still a mother, as long as I'm with Chingman, doesn't that mean I could have a mother too? After saying this, the girl's eyes grew red and watery. I wondered if it was because I was getting older. I'd become so sentimental lately. Her sadness was starting to get to me, too. I gently patted the girl's head. It's alright, even if you're not with Chingman, I'd still be happy to think of you as my own child. Tian Jiaowei looked at me with an intense, burning gaze. Auntie, you should think about becoming my stepmom. My dad is great, he's handsome, rich, has good taste, and he's not even going bald. Wait for me, I'll get my dad to the show set right away, and you can interview him and put him to the test. After saying all this in one breath, the little girl ran off. I was afraid I would refuse her if I waited any longer. I thought the little girl was just acting on a whim. Besides, even if I'm dissatisfied with Chingman, he's still my own son. What kind of situation is this? Being with the prospective in-laws. To my surprise, Tian Jiaowei quickly broke up with my son and actually managed to get his father, Tian Hongguang, onto the show. Along with Tian Hongguang, there were also two single fathers in their early 50s. Each of them claimed to be here for me, wanting a fair competition for the chance to hold my hand. The production team was stunned to see three well-dressed, distinguished older men. The matchmaker came straight over and asked me, what on earth is going on? I was completely baffled. If you don't know, I certainly don't. I thought it was some stunt you guys pulled for the ratings. The program's director was overjoyed when they learned about this, slapping their thigh in excitement. Unbelievable, truly unbelievable. This auntie is a natural-born internet sensation. We need to arrange filming right away. Three local renowned entrepreneurs, all vying for the attention of a 55-year-old auntie, went to the program set to compete. This kind of explosive material is a once-in-a-lifetime find, but I genuinely wanted to get out of there, so I quickly refused. I have a feeling that if this show airs, the entire nation will know who I am. Don't you dare label me as some kind of geriatric femme fatale. Director, this really won't do. I may be an amateur, but I still have my pride. The director almost knelt down and kowtowed to me. Auntie, no, Mom, you're my real mom. Please help the kid out. I'll give you more money. How about 200,000? My mind went blank for a second when I heard the figure 200,000. I didn't want to agree, but he was throwing money at me. While I was still hesitating, the director raised the offer again. 500,000. I'm all in. I'm putting all the funding into you. What reason do I have to disagree? Who would turn down money? The production team suddenly gave me an older version of If You Are the One. The matchmaker acted as the host. I know you're all here because of Auntie. Could you tell me why you're so fond of her? Ding Chong, the owner of a well-known food processing factory, was the first to take the microphone. I saw on the show that Yunhui once quit her job as an accountant to care for her in-laws. A woman this virtuous and capable, you've just got to marry her and cherish her. Lu Ziming took the microphone. He was a major local grain grower, managing 2,000 acres of land. I absolutely adore her personality. I'm usually not much of a talker myself. Her words might be sharp, but she always hits the nail on the head. I just want to bring Yin home and have her scold all those gossipy people in our village. Tian Hongguang was the last to speak. I find Hui Hui very special. I've been a widower for many years and I'm looking for a soulmate. If she were my woman, I definitely wouldn't let her cook or do any hard labor. I just want to accompany her through the final journey of her life. If by any chance I pass away before her, I want my daughter to take care of her in her old age. I was squirming uncomfortably below. Are you happy hearing so many confessions? Not at all. I just want to find a hole to crawl into. The matchmaker asked me again for my opinion on the three of them. I'm postmenopausal. What opinion could I possibly have? This farce has escalated beyond my control. To cut through the chaos, I ultimately chose to pair up with Tian Hongguang. It's not that I like him so much. With the connection to Tian Jiaowei, it's easier for me to extricate myself with his help. After leaving the production team, I found Tian Hongguang. Mr. Tian, I know you might have gone on the show because your daughter pressured you. You don't have to take it seriously. Tian Hongguang had a warm smile. How do you know I was forced to go, and not going for you? I was stunned. Hasn't this man been single for many years, so good at flirting? Unfortunately, my heart is now sealed with cement. I directly voiced my true thoughts. I'm not planning to remarry for now. Tian Hongguang isn't annoyed either. I completely understand that you haven't fully moved on from your last relationship. However, that won't stop me from pursuing you. Tian Hongguang's voice was gentle and his manner was courteous, possessing the charm of a mature man without being the least bit sleazy. I was nearly bowled over by that sudden confession. I stammered incoherently. Let's talk later. See you. No, Forget it, I don't need to see them. I made a complete and utter retreat, and just like that, my dealings with the show's production team were brought to a close. I had successfully found a match, meaning no more blind dates, and on top of that, I received over $600,000 in compensation. I'm now a millionaire, and I've saved enough for my retirement. As soon as this show aired, it dominated all major media platforms. What was once an utterly obscure show has suddenly become the focus of national discussion. On one hand, they discuss which of the three men I will choose, and on the other, whether my ex-husband is crying in the bathroom. In this digital age, things have spiraled way beyond what I ever anticipated. An insider revealed that I was forced to join that dating show just to make money. This led to Xingli and his son facing an unprecedented wave of online abuse. Trapped at home and too afraid to go out, Man had no choice but to video call me for help. Mom, please come home quickly, stop messing around. This income of several $100,000 is enough for my betrothal gifts. I smiled faintly and said, who said the money I earned has to be given to you? It's my dowry savings. Man was so angry that he pounded the bed. Fine, I won't think about your money. Then hurry up and issue a clarification. Say you went on those blind dates for the money of your own free will, and everything you did on the show was just for laughs. I shot back, was I, though? Man was left speechless for a moment and then tried to appeal to my emotions. I've been labeled as unfilial, and now I've lost my job. If this continues, I'll be socially dead, and my life will be over. I still asked back, are you filial? Seeing that I was completely unmoved, Man's tone grew increasingly harsh. Mom, you're getting old, help me now. And at least someone will be there to perform the funeral rites for you when you die, when you're lying in the ICU. Do you want me to sign the consent forms or pull the plug? Looking at that face, a spitting image of his father, I marveled at the sheer power of genetics. In the end, this son of his was utterly ruined by his upbringing. Well, I suppose I should thank you for getting me on that show. It was quite the windfall, and that grandfather of mine, the one you all looked down on, left me a small fortune of $800,000. With that kind of money, there would be no shortage of people willing to be my dutiful descendants. After saying that, I hung up the video call directly, yet the tears still fell uncontrollably. Before I could calm down, Xingli's video call came again. We sat in silence on opposite sides of the screen for a long time. My love began in the spring of youth but ultimately could not withstand the winter of old age. Yunhui, I've been doing a lot of thinking these past few days. I know you've suffered all these years. Can you give me and our son a chance? We are your flesh and blood, your true family in this world. I wiped away the tear from the corner of my eye and asked, are those with blood ties necessarily family? You never even treated me like a human being. Now that you've been scolded, do you feel the pain? I knew it was impossible for him to beg me for mercy. In a soft voice, Xingli turned his head away. If you insist on this, don't blame me for not remembering our marital bond. Laughable. When has he ever remembered our marital bond for me? Over these decades, I have made 3 mistakes. One reason is that my love was given too freely, and another is that it led them to mistakenly believe I would never leave. And then there's this, I gambled on a man's conscience by sacrificing myself. When you're utterly defeated, even the act of fighting back feels pitifully insignificant. After all, Xingli cut his teeth in a state-owned enterprise. He has a profound understanding of human nature. He directly challenged me to a live debate, intending to publicly humiliate me in front of the entire internet. Xingli was speaking confidently into the camera. I'm sorry, everyone, for taking up internet resources because of my personal matters. Today, I will clarify the misunderstandings between my wife and me. The truth will be judged by everyone. Xingli's humble demeanor and graceful bearing, remarkable for a man of 60, instantly won over netizens. His image makes it difficult to associate him with the term scumbag. To make matters worse, my son, Man, has taken his father's side, putting me at a severe disadvantage. Xingli continued, my wife is a wonderful person, just a bit hot-tempered. After we retired and started living together, we ended up getting divorced over the most trivial things. I won't comment on her going on dates right after our divorce. Everyone has the right to pursue their own happiness. I just wanted to stand up and applaud him. Not a single word was a lie, and every sentence painted him in a favorable light. A few words turned me into a cranky, nagging shrew. Netizens' attitudes have become overwhelmingly one-sided. I thought Auntie Gu was genuine, but it turns out she has a bad temper. This uncle seems like a well-cultured person, not someone who would lie. Well, what married couple doesn't have their squabbles? It's like the tongue and the teeth. They're bound to clash. By this point, the anger I'd felt earlier had completely subsided. Isn't he the one who's so obsessed with saving face today? I'm going to grind that precious pride of his right into the dirt. So the trivial matter you're talking about is how, after my father sacrificed his life, I wanted to visit the border post where he served, and you kept stopping me. Or is it about how you look down on me for not having a pension, treating me like a useless old maid you can order around? Or is it about how you and your son, hearing this show pays well, gained up to give me the silent treatment when I refused to participate? The netizens who were just watching the drama instantly erupted, all eagerly awaiting a plot twist. Of course, Ching Xingli wouldn't admit it, but when I played the surveillance footage from our living room, he finally panicked. Come to think of it, I installed that camera for him in the first place. Ching Xingli has severe hypoglycemia, and I was worried he might faint. Ching Xingli saw netizens unanimously calling him a scumbag and started to dodge the main issue. It's not that we're forcing you. Ultimately, it's your choice as a mother to willingly sacrifice for your son. I don't cheat, I don't abuse, and I work diligently. What more do you want? I was so angry I left. Not cheating or committing domestic violence is the bare minimum in a marriage. When did it become a plus point? Do you think taking care of 2 paralyzed elders and an unruly child is easy? The comment section is full of netizens who agree with my views. Ching Xingli didn't know how to counter me for a moment, but Ching Man behind him couldn't stay still. All these years, it's been my father who provided for the family. I owe him my life and upbringing. Mom, you shouldn't talk about him like that. That little ingrate hasn't shown his face. I almost forgot about him. The gift of life, you owe that to your mother. Your father's few seconds of effort certainly didn't wear him out. As for the nurturing, you weren't adopted, nor were you born at the age of 26. I sacrificed the time I could have spent climbing the corporate ladder to raise you. How do you repay that? Ching Man stammered for a long time but couldn't come up with a coherent answer. By this point, netizens have already figured out the messy details of our family drama. Someone even kindly compiled a detailed account of the entire incident. Originally, after being scolded for a few days, everyone forgot about Ching Xingli and Ching Man, but they just had to stir up trouble, trying to divert the blame to me. As a result, without me lifting a finger, Ching Xingli was already being targeted. Ching Xingli used to manipulate his colleagues quite a bit at work. Now that the wall has fallen, everyone is pushing it over. During the 2 years Ching Xingli was on business trips, his flirtations with colleagues and unclear expense reports quickly came to light. His arch-nemesis followed the trail and dug up all the evidence of Ching Xingli and a female colleague colluding to take kickbacks. He can't possibly deny it. According to the law, the pension of a state-owned enterprise employee involved in a criminal case is suspended. Ching Xingli was so enraged that he suffered a stroke. Ching Man wasn't in any better shape than his father. As the saying goes, filial piety is the foundation of all virtues. Ching Man's reputation for being unfilial spread far and wide. No one was willing to hire him, and he became a jobless drifter. According to former neighbors, Ching Man completely neglected his father and would beat Ching Xingli whenever he got drunk. Ching Xingli was often so hungry that he had to beg for food from the neighbors. I'm quite satisfied with this result. If you love me, I'll help you hold up half the sky. If you bully me, I'll destroy that half of the sky. Absolutely flawless. After all that has happened, I can finally set out to follow my father's footsteps to the Gobi Desert. Tian Jiarui knew my plan and brought her father to my newly purchased home. Auntie, do you want a free tour guide? I looked at the man in his 50s who still blushed when he saw me, and suddenly found him a bit endearing. I responded generously. Take it then. This scene was just witnessed by Ching Man, who came to find me. My husband retired last month, and we plan to travel to the Gobi Desert together. And you, Tian Jiarui, I knew why you insisted on breaking up with me. You wanted to turn my mother-in-law into a stepmother. How could you do such a thing? I'm going to expose you. I never took Ching Man's words seriously. He had long lost the most precious things: honesty, trust, and filial piety. Who would believe anything he says? If he still can't reflect on himself, then his life is truly ruined. As for whether Tian Hongguang and I can be together, let's just see how it goes. I accept all his good qualities and respond fully. If he treats me poorly, then he'll be the next Ching Xingli. I won't let one bad marriage sour me on the whole idea. All I need to know is that I'm happy right now. And that's enough. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video. Story 2. When I received the bed photos sent by Shin Jizhou's secretary, I was at the hospital for a prenatal checkup. In the photo, Shin Jizhou was peacefully asleep with his eyes closed, but the ambiguous red marks on his neck stung my eyes. Jizhou no longer needs you. If you know what's good for you, just get lost. After more than 20 years of companionship, I stood by Shinjijo from nothing to the power and status he has today. He used to be so insecure, terrified that even I might one day abandon him. That's why he'd lie awake all night whenever I wasn't by his side. But now, he's sleeping soundly next to another woman. I gently caress the little life growing inside me, knowing that for it, and for Shinjijo, it's over. It's time to say goodbye. My pregnancy isn't going well. After reviewing the test results, the doctor went on and on about it. Overall, Xiao, I still recommend you stay in the hospital to protect the pregnancy. I looked up in a daze, my hand unconsciously touching my belly, and said to the doctor, I don't want this child anymore. Could you please help me schedule an abortion? The doctor was shocked. Why, aren't you always eager to have a child? I've been married to Shinjijo for 5 years, and I've always longed for a baby. But no matter if it's me or Shinjijo, all the various tests we've undergone show that both of us are perfectly healthy. It's just bad luck that Shinjijo and I haven't been able to conceive. Since I officially started trying to conceive 2 years ago, I've been seeing Dr. Liang. She knew how much I had longed for this little life, so she was deeply shocked when she heard I planned to terminate the pregnancy. I just smiled and didn't say much. Just half an hour ago, I was still eagerly looking forward to this child's arrival, fooling myself into thinking it could bring Shinjijo and me closer together, even as we drifted apart. Unfortunately, a WeChat message from Xiao Mingyu completely woke me up from my self-deception. All the things I had desperately ignored and tried hard to overlook came flooding back into my mind. Shinjijo's replies were getting shorter, the lights in his office stayed on later, the perfume on his suit jacket grew stronger, and the atmosphere between Shinjijo and Xiao Mingyu became increasingly ambiguous. It wasn't until I saw Shinjijo bare-chested in another woman's bed that I had to believe it. The Shinjijo who once blamed himself and wept for not being able to give me a decent wedding, the Shinjijo who once couldn't sleep a wink without me, the Shinjijo who once vowed to love me for a lifetime, has indeed cheated on me. He is now sleeping by the side of another woman, and the arm that once belonged only to me now carries the scent of another woman. Dr. Liang, seeing my troubled expression, worriedly waved his hand in front of me and asked, it's no small matter to terminate a pregnancy. Are you really not going to go home and discuss it with your husband? My heart felt as if it were being squeezed by an invisible hand, aching with each beat. Meeting Dr. Liang's concerned gaze, my voice remained calm but carried a barely noticeable tremor. No need, the baby's father cheated, the scheduled surgery is next week, and at most, I have only a few more days left with this little life I once longed for day and night. I stepped out of the hospital, gazing at the bustling world outside, and suddenly felt a sense of where should I go, and where can I go? The ever larger house with Shinjijo is not a home. Since moving in last year, Shinjijo has returned home only a handful of times each month. The vast house now feels unbearably cold and lonely, filled with unspoken resentment. The orphanage where Shinjijo and I relied on each other is also not a home. All the hardships of our first half of life stemmed from there. A major traffic accident 23 years ago left both Shinjijo and me orphaned, and we were sent to an orphanage in our hometown. At the orphanage, we often went hungry, wore insufficient clothing, and were bullied by older kids among the children around our age. Shinjijo's situation was the worst. My parents died in a car accident while working away from home. A small minivan packed with 13 people crashed, and all died on the spot. Shinjijo was the sole survivor of that car accident. After witnessing his parents' deaths firsthand, he developed psychological issues. He stopped speaking and wouldn't even fight back when bullied. It wasn't until some local troublemakers snatched the jade pendant he always carried that his voice, silent for months, finally rasped out, "Give it back, my pendant." That pendant was the only thing his parents had left him. Its smooth, luminous surface was streaked with faint traces of blood. I'd seen it countless times. How carefully, how reverently, Shinjijo would press it against his chest. Man is born with an evil nature. Uneducated children didn't understand such things. They only found amusement in tormenting Shinjijo. Shinjijo was already quite young at the time, having barely had a decent meal since arriving at the orphanage. He was terribly weak. Not only did he fail to retrieve his parents' sole keepsake, but he was also pinned down and beaten by several older boys. I was often bullied by other troublemakers myself, but seeing Shinjijo's pitiful state, I mustered up the courage to stand up for him. After I snatched the jade pendant back, I grabbed Shinjijo's hand and we ran for what felt like miles to escape those bullies, but as a result, we both got grounded. That night, in the pitch-black darkness, I was so bored that I kept trying to talk to Shinjijo. "What's your name?" "I'm Su-ing." "Did your parents also die in that car accident? Why didn't you fight back when they hit you?" "This is so boring. Can you talk to me? It's too dark here." and I'm a bit scared." In the darkness, Shinjijo suddenly hugged me. His voice was muffled, right by my ear. "My name is Shinjijo, you have to remember me." From then on, Shinjijo and I became inseparable. When he was bullied, I would stand in front of him with my arms spread wide, looking serious and speaking in a childish voice. "If you want to bully Shinjijo, you'll have to get past me first." I was always hungry and never full. Young Shinjijo would sneak into the kitchen to steal leftover cold buns for me. The steamed bun had completely hardened, and I had to use a lot of force to break it in half, one half for me, and the other half for Shinjijo. Shinjijo said he wasn't hungry, but his stomach growled. The major changes in our childhood made both Shinjijo and me very mature early on. We knew that studying was the only way out of a mediocre life, so neither of us dared to slack off. At the age of 17, I represented my school in a physics competition, which required me to stay in another province for a week. That was the first time Shinjijo and I were apart. Right before I left, he silently pressed something into my hand. When I opened my palm, I saw it was the jade pendant he had cherished like a treasure all these years. The days I spent in the other province felt excruciatingly long. I could hardly wait for the competition to end so I could return to the city where Shinjijo was, but I found him in a terrible state. The orphanage director told me with deep concern that ever since I left, Shinjijo had been suffering from sleepless nights. He would only close his eyes when his body could no longer bear the exhaustion, only to wake up drenched in sweat from nightmares. The feelings that first sprouted in my heart at 15 had finally grown into a mighty tree at this moment. I took Shinjijo's hand, my face a mess of tears and sniffles. "Shinjijo, don't be afraid, I will never leave you." Shinjijo gently wiped the tears from my face with his hand, then pressed a tender kiss to my forehead. Neither of us said a word, but we both knew, from this moment on, everything was different. Tears streamed down my face before I even realized it, my haggard reflection staring back at me from the massive glass windows on the mall's first floor. Even after Shinjijo's business took off, I kept up my frugal habits, knowing full well that every penny he earned was hard-won. But then I remembered Xiao Minggu's dazzling, opulent social media feed. Whether it was a little designer suit dress from an international luxury house or a handbag costing hundreds of thousands, she had it all. For her birthday last month, the most expensive gift she received was a diamond necklace. Meanwhile, I was dressed in the plainest clothes, carrying the old bag Shinjijo gave me in college. Inside were two things: a prenatal checkup report for the fetus, and an appointment notice for an abortion procedure. Xiao Minggu, the other woman, lives every day in such glamour and style, and I, the lawful wife, am left looking so shabby it's almost laughable. I still had the supplementary card Shinjijo gave me in my bag. Over all these years, I'd barely used it. But given how things had ended up between us, I figured there was no point in holding back anymore. When I walked into the city's famous luxury mall, the sales associates gave me a discreet once-over before treating me with an air of indifference. However, the moment I bought two handbags priced at 200,000 each in one go, their attitude toward me suddenly shifted to one of utmost respect. It was like I'd opened the door to a whole new world. In a single afternoon, I spent nearly 10 million. Even Shinjijo called me. "Where did you go this afternoon? Why did you buy so much stuff?" I was directing the mall security guards to load my shopping haul into the taxi when I heard Shinjijo's usual gentle voice, but suddenly felt a bit sick. Passing by a mall, I realized I'd been living frugally all these years, afraid of embarrassing you, so I decided to buy some things to spruce myself up. After a pause, Shinjijo said, "How could you ever embarrass me? But this is good. From now on, if you like something, just buy it." As the call ended, I suddenly felt that Shinjijo had it tough. One moment he was all lovey-dovey with his mistress, the next, he had to soothe his wife over the phone. I returned home alone. The matter of asking Shinjijo whether he'd be home for dinner felt like a distant memory from another lifetime. To my surprise, just as I was eating, I heard the sound of the front door being unlocked from the outside. I looked up from the dining table and locked eyes with Shinjijo, who had his suit jacket draped over his arm. He loosened his tie and showed no intention of sitting down to eat. How can someone who's already full outside eat anything when they get home? He eagerly rummaged through the bags piled at the entrance, but his expression noticeably changed when he finished. "Ying, you didn't buy anything for me." I shrugged and forced a smile. "Now that Xiao Minggu is in charge of all your outfits, even if I bought something for you, it wouldn't be of any use." I remember it was Xiao Minggu's third month as Shinjijo's secretary, and the first time I ever laid eyes on her. Concerned about Shinjijo's poor health, I would often make nourishing soups at home and bring them to the office for him. But that day, the moment I walked into the office, I saw Shinjizhou sitting in his recliner with Xiao Mingyu leaning over him, her hand clutching his necktie. The sight made me uneasy. Though I didn't jump to any conclusions, I simply asked, "What are you all doing, Xiao?" Mingyu showed no sign of panic. Instead, the look he gave me was tinged with an unsettling provocation. "I was just looking at the pattern on President Shin's tie. It's a bit too tacky and cheap-looking, hardly fitting for someone of his stature. I thought I'd help him change into a new one." I turned my head to look at Shinjizhou, only to see that Xiao Mingyu had already nearly undone his tie. Seeing this, Xiao Mingyu's lips curled into an even more provocative smile. Before I could react, she swiftly yanked Shinjizhou's tie off and tossed it straight into the trash can. "This worthless piece of junk, I'm throwing it away for Mr. Shin. You don't mind, do you, sis?" Before I could even get a word out, Shinjizhou snapped, "How dare you? This tie was a gift from my wife, who gave you the right to decide what happens to it." A flicker of disbelief and humiliation passed through Xiao Mingyu's eyes, though they shimmered with tears. Her words carried a stubborn edge. "Well, what do you expect me to do? I've already thrown it away." Shinjizhou's expression turned icy. "Pick it up." Though Xiao Mingyu was reluctant, Shinjizhou's gaze was so chillingly cold that she had no choice but to bend down, pick up the tie again, and then run out in tears. After work, the more I thought about it, the more unsettled I felt. Sitting in the passenger seat of Shinjizhou's car, I tentatively began, "Don't you think your secretary is a bit too presumptuous, while waiting at the red light?" Shinjizhou turned his head to look at me. "That's the only flaw, otherwise, she suits my needs perfectly." I opened my mouth, but in the end, I didn't say anything. I pulled myself together and saw that Shinjizhou's expression hadn't changed at all. He simply leaned in and hugged me from behind. His voice was low and tender. "Are you jealous of Xiao Mingyu again?" I said indifferently. "No, it's already this late. What's the point of being jealous now?" Shinjizhou seemed surprised by my calm reaction, as I usually couldn't hide my jealousy when mentioning Xiao Mingyu. No matter how hard I tried, he still hugged me from behind, but the increasingly strong scent of his perfume made me feel sick. "Where's that tie I gave you? Why haven't I seen it again?" Shinjizhou stiffened slightly. "It must be at the office." I just smiled but didn't say anything. That tie was probably thrown away by Xiao Mingyu long ago. Shinjizhou sensed my coldness and tried to say something to lighten the mood, but I cut him off. "You smell strongly of perfume. Go take a shower first." Shinjizhou looked down at his shirt, his expression momentarily lost and flustered. "Ying." I turned back and said to Shinjizhou, "I know, your colleagues. It's normal for you to have contact." Usually when Shinjizhou comes home, I always follow him around. So when he came home today and noticed my coldness, he felt a bit out of place. Under the warm yellow light of the living room, I was reading a book covered with a thin blanket. Shinjizhou started making small talk. "Why can't I see the folic acid? Is it finished?" My hand paused as I turned the page and I said, "I stopped taking it a long time ago." Shinjizhou came home less and less often. Since I couldn't possibly have a child on my own, I stopped taking my folic acid supplements after finishing the last pill. Back when Shinjizhou and I were at our closest, I had so desperately wished for a child with him. I never imagined that after I had completely given up hope, a child would come along. Its timing, however, was far from ideal. He watched as the once familiar decorations in the living room grew fewer and fewer, his voice uncharacteristically strained. "Ying, it's my fault. From now on, I'll come home more often to be with you." If it were before today, I would probably have been overjoyed by Shinjizhou's words, but now, as I listened to him say this, there is no joy in my heart, only endless sorrow. I've already contacted a lawyer this afternoon. I know there's no future left between Shinjizhou and me. Shinjizhou had noticed something was off with me, so the very next afternoon, he showed up right on time at the entrance of our company to pick me up from work. As the car window rolled down and I saw Shinjizhou's face, I was taken aback. "What are you doing here?" Shinjizhou acted the part of the perfect husband. "I'm here to drive you home from work." My hand hesitated on the passenger door handle for a moment before I finally got into the back seat instead. Shinjizhou's brow twitched as he asked me, "Why are you sitting in the back?" My tone was calm. "Your secretary adjusted the passenger seat quite comfortably. Since I don't often ride in your car, I didn't want to bother readjusting it." Shinjizhou studied my expression in the rearview mirror. He seemed eager to find proof that I was jealous, so he could launch into that same old speech he'd given me 1,000 times, but my expression betrayed nothing out of the ordinary, which left him unsure whether to even bring it up. My gaze drifted to the passenger seat, which was noticeably pushed too far back. I didn't want to imagine the sordid things Shinjizhou and she must have done in this car, yet my thoughts helplessly wandered back to 3 months ago. It was raining that day. I called Shinjizhou, hoping he would pick me up from work. His office was only a half-hour drive away, yet I ended up waiting a grueling 2 hours. The wind and rain were relentless. My umbrella was nearly useless. Just as I opened the passenger door, I saw Xiao Mingyu sitting right there in the seat. She saw me and lazily said, "Sister, my foot is sprained and it's inconvenient for me to get out of the car. Could you please take the passenger seat?" I looked at Shin Jizhou, but he showed no reaction, as if everything was unfolding as it should. After we got home, Shin Jizhou and I had the most severe argument. I was hysterical, demanding that Shin Jizhou fire Xiao Mingyu, but he just calmly watched me lose it. In the end, he tossed out, "You need to calm down," and walked out the door. That night, Shin Jizhou didn't come home. Shin Jizhou has so much now, he probably has a new pillar to lean on, and there will be countless Xiao Mingyus waiting for him. But me, I have nothing left except for Shin Jizhou. It all ended with me backing down, but ever since then, every single time Shin Jizhou let me down, it felt like I was throwing away another piece of the memories that belonged to just the two of us. That storage box was crammed full. There was the first pair of white sneakers Shin Jizhou bought me with his hard-earned money, and the scarf I knitted for him back in college. I had planned to wait until I'd thrown out everything in that box before saying a final goodbye to Shin Jizhou. Little did I know that Xiao Mingyu's compromising photos would speed things up. Shin Jizhou's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. "What's on your mind?" Coming back to myself, I replied, "Nothing." Silence fell in the car again. After a long while, Shin Jizhou spoke. "Winter is coming again. Where's the scarf you gave me? I remember you knitted a couple's version. Let's find them and wear them," I calmly said. "I've already thrown it away." Shin Jizhou clearly hadn't expected me to say that. "What?" I watched the scenery whizzing past the window and said flatly, "They were just taking up space. I threw them out when I was tidying up the other day." Shin Jizhou opened his mouth, but no words came out for a long moment. I had barely gotten home when I received a WeChat message from Xiao Mingyu. She seemed absolutely furious. "You bitch. What tricks did you use this time to steal Mr. Shin away again? You think Jizhou loves you? Let me tell you, the one he loves most is me." In the unusually quiet house, I looked at the messages one by one and suddenly laughed out loud. Shin Jizhou looked at me. "What are you laughing at?" I turned off my phone screen and said, "Your secretary sent me a few messages. Quite interesting." Shin Jizhou's expression visibly stiffened. "What did she say?" I shrugged. "Nothing much." Shin Jizhou's breathing grew heavier. He tried to snatch the phone from my hand. "Let me see." I didn't dodge Shin Jizhou's movement. I just looked up at him. I asked, "Does it matter what she said to me? Why are you so nervous?" Shin Jizhou's hand stiffly dropped, but he said nothing in the end. Although I knew this child couldn't be kept, every time I touched my abdomen, I still couldn't help but feel a softness in my heart. Even though I knew our bond had entered a countdown the day I learned of its existence, I still teared up. 2 days before the surgery, I called Shin Jizhou, trying to suppress the lump in my throat, and said nonchalantly, "Do you have plans tomorrow?" My initiative seemed to surprise Shin Jizhou. I heard the sound of typing, and then he said, "I do have some arrangements, but they can be rescheduled." My gaze fell on the distant horizon as I said, "Will you accompany me to Disneyland tomorrow?" Shin Jizhou's voice held a note of surprise. "What made you think of going there all of a sudden?" I rested a hand gently on my lower abdomen. "Are you coming or not?" Of course, Shin Jizhou wouldn't turn down my olive branch. "I'll go." I felt a pang of guilt towards this child. Taking it, along with Shin Jizhou, to see the amusement park I had dreamed of as a child was the only thing I could do for it. The next morning, Shin Jizhou, for once, was reluctant to get out of bed. Just like old times, he was being a pest, holding me tight and refusing to let go. He took a deep breath and said with his eyes closed, "Ying, having you here is the best." Shin Jizhou thought that by offering him this olive branch, I had talked myself into continuing the charade and pretending everything was fine to keep our life going. That wasn't it at all. My fingers gently brushed against Shin Jizhou's neck, and he thought I was just playing with him, grabbing my fingers wanting to kiss them. But at my words, his smile froze on his lips. "What's going on with your neck?" In truth, I was asking knowingly. When I was closest to Shin Jizhou, my body was often covered in such marks. Shin Jizhou looked down, as if only just noticing the mark Xiao Mingyu had left on him. He replied flatly, "Must be a mosquito bite." I gently stroked the mark and said with a smile, "That mosquito sure knows where to bite." Taking advantage of Shin Jizhou relaxing his grip, I sat up with my back to him and said, "It's getting late, time to get up." Arriving at Disneyland, my mood seemed to lift a little. I bought a Minnie Mouse headband for myself. Seeing me wear it, a genuine smile finally reached Shin Jizhou's eyes, and he bought a Mickey Mouse one too. I usually go for the thrill rides at amusement parks, but this time I dragged Shin Jizhou to queue for the carousel. Shin Jizhou was baffled, but but he could only follow obediently, not forgetting to add, "What's gotten into you? You used to love." Before he could finish his sentence, his phone rang. The moment he saw the caller ID on the screen, his smile vanished. He turned to me and said, "I'm going to take a call, wait here for a moment." I didn't let Shinjijo go as I usually did. Instead, I grabbed his wrist and asked him, "You're already so busy, can't you just not take this call?" Shinjijo was a bit surprised, but as his gaze fell on the screen, he still pried my fingers off one by one. Be good, I'll be back soon." He quickly went to answer the phone. I knew there was a good chance the call was from Xiao Mingyu, and I also knew that once Shinjijo answered her call, he wouldn't be coming back. Sure enough, within 5 minutes, Shinjijo's figure disappeared into the crowd, and he called me. There's an urgent matter at the company, I have to go back first. Next time, I'll accompany you to Disneyland." Okay. The warm sunlight bathed me, but I felt icy cold all over. It was noisy here, and I didn't know if Shinjijo had heard me. "There won't be a next time." Less than half an hour later, Xiao Mingyu sent me a WeChat message, gloating, "So what if you used every trick in the book to seduce Jijo? One call from me, and he'll drop you without a second thought." I had never replied to Xiao Mingyu's messages before, only this time, I responded, "Thank you for providing direct and compelling evidence of Shinjijo's infidelity." The typing indicator appeared on her end, but before her message arrived, a notification popped up. She had recalled it. "Xiao Mingyu thinks I'm really stupid. How could I remind her without keeping a record beforehand?" She scolded me. "You shameless." I didn't reply to her message but turned off the screen and focused on taking my child to Disneyland. Even if dad doesn't want to accompany it, it still has mom. On this day, I went on every non-dangerous ride at Disneyland. I don't like sweets, but I bought several ice creams. I ordered a kids' meal at the restaurant and bought everything I thought kids might enjoy. I feel guilty for not being able to bring it into this world, but I know that if I were to give birth to it, it might face even more hardships. Shinjijo said he had work at the company, but he didn't return until late at night. I never sent him a single message, just quietly packed up all my things in this house. When I was admitted to the hospital, Dr. Liang asked me, "Where's your caregiver?" I smiled and said, "I'll hire a nurse." Dr. Liang frowned, "But a family member needs to sign." "Where are your parents?" I replied. "Dr. Liang, I'm an orphan." A flicker of compassion passed through Dr. Liang's eyes as she looked at me. Finally, she reached out and gently touched my hair. "I only have one son, and he's currently studying abroad. After your surgery, you're always welcome to visit my home." Tears welled up in my eyes at that moment, and I nodded firmly. "Okay." Just before entering the operating room, Dr. Liang asked me one last time if I was absolutely sure I had already made my decision. I simply picked up my phone and sent a message to Shinjijo. It was the notification for the abortion procedure. Shinjijo once caused me so much pain. For him now, let me use the little sincerity he still has for me to strike back. When Shinjijo saw the content of the picture, he almost stopped breathing. Suing, abortion surgery. A flurry of thoughts raced through his mind in an instant. I'm pregnant. Why haven't I told him? He called me almost instantly, but no one picked up. Shinjijo pushed away Xiao Mingyu, who was trying to be intimate with him, and drove to the hospital like a man possessed, his hands trembling on the steering wheel the entire way. How he wished it was all a lie, that I wasn't pregnant, or that I had just photoshopped the results to trick him. But when he stumbled into the hospital, Dr. Liang's words confirmed it was true. In a voice thick with pleading, he begged Dr. Liang, "Doctor, please, I'm begging you, can you cancel my wife's surgery? You know how long we've been hoping for this child." Dr. Liang had once considered Shinjijo a rare find, a genuinely considerate man, but the look she gave him now was nothing but irritation. "The decision for surgery rests with the patient. Even as her husband, you have no right to interfere." Shinjijo's eyes were bloodshot. How could Ying bear to abort this child? How could she? Dr. Liang said, "Perhaps it's because she found out you were cheating." A thunderous roar exploded in Shinjijo's mind, and his legs went so weak he could barely stand. How could this be? Xiao Mingyu arrived shortly after Shinjijo, and as soon as she saw him, she started complaining. "Did that old woman pull another trick again? Jijo, you." Before she could finish her sentence, Shinjijo grabbed her by the neck and pinned her against the wall. "What exactly did you say to Suing? Was it you? Speak up." Xiao Mingyu had never seen Shinjijo like this. He was choking her so hard she couldn't speak, and it was only thanks to the medical staff that the two were pulled apart. Shinjijo's eyes were bloodshot. "Was it you who filled Ying's head with nonsense? Was it you?" Terrified, Xiao Mingyu instinctively shot back defiantly. "Who went looking for Suing? Don't you dare make things up." Shinjizhou stared fixedly at Xiao Mingyu for a long moment, then, in a fit of rage, he broke free from the medical staff's restraint, snatched Xiao Mingyu's phone, and unlocked it. When he actually saw me in Xiao Mingyu's chat list, his heart sank, his eyes were bloodshot, his fingers trembling as he scrolled up bit by bit. When he saw the intimate photos of the two of them, he almost stopped breathing. So that's how it was. Shinjizhou viciously grabbed Xiao Mingyu by the collar and pinned her against the wall. It was you spreading lies. You're the one who killed my and Yingying's child. Xiao Mingyu was so terrified by Shinjizhou's obsessive demeanor that she was left speechless. In the end, the hospital had to call security to finally drag him away. When I opened my eyes again, it wasn't a nurse by my bedside, but Shinjizhou. His eyes were bloodshot, stubble dotted his chin, and he looked utterly exhausted. The moment our eyes met, I saw his Adam's apple bob. A storm of emotion swirled in his eyes, yet in the end, he simply brushed the stray hairs from my forehead. His voice was hoarse as he asked, "Does it hurt?" My hand went instinctively to my lower abdomen. It was still early, my pregnancy not yet showing, but I just knew, deep down, that everything had changed. Tears traced a silent path down my cheeks. Unable to face Shinjizhou any longer, I could only ask, "Have you been home yet?" Shinjizhou didn't understand why I asked that. He had been by my side since I was pushed out. "No, why? Did you leave something at home?" I turned away to look at the yellow leaves falling outside the window. The city is about to enter winter. I placed the divorce agreement on the coffee table in the living room. "If there are no objections, just sign it." I clearly heard Shinjizhou's breathing become heavier. He wanted to reach out and pull me, but feeling that I was too fragile after just having surgery, he didn't dare to move. He spoke with difficulty. "Yingying, you know everything, don't you?" I closed my eyes wearily. "Yes, I know everything." Shinjizhou is quite eloquent, often leaving people speechless in the business world, but now, his voice is tight, and he has no idea what to say. I wasn't sincere with Xiao Mingyu. As of now, I no longer want to dwell on those little issues in love, but hearing Shinjizhou say this, I calmly replied, "I don't care about your sincerity, but your body is quite honest." Shinjizhou remained silent for a long time before tentatively taking my cold hand. "You won't forgive me, will you?" I easily pulled my hand out of Shinjizhou's grasp and said, "Jizhou, you should know my temper." When Shinjizhou returned home, he felt for the first time how empty and silent the house was without me. He changed into his slippers and wandered through the rooms. Shinjizhou couldn't find any trace of me. The skincare products that once sat on the bathroom counter, the crafts I made displayed on the shelf, and the now empty wardrobe. With each step, his anxiety grew, until he saw the pair of rocking chairs on the balcony, covered in dust. He covered his face, sank to the floor, and wept uncontrollably. Shinjizhou couldn't understand how everything had gone so wrong. He had been so close to happiness, yet it all came to an abrupt halt. Then, everything took a sharp turn for the worse. He saw a moving box on the coffee table. In addition to the divorce papers, Shinjizhou recognized the moving box, but seeing it alongside the divorce papers suddenly filled him with panic. He hurriedly opened the lid, but everything that had once been packed inside was gone. All that remained was a single diary of mine. With trembling hands, he opened the notebook and saw the beginning of the entry. "Shinjizhou is seeing someone else. It's his secretary." I thought Shinjizhou would at least try to hide it, but I never imagined he would be so brazen. "I love him, and I don't want to lose him. 20 years together. He has left the deepest mark on my life, but I also don't want to live my life clinging to the hollow shell of Shinjizhou. Starting today, every time Shinjizhou lets me down, I will throw away one item from the box. The day the box is empty is the day I give up on Shinjizhou for good." Shinjizhou finally broke down in tears. Large teardrops fell onto the paper, blurring the ink. "Today I went to the mall with Shinjizhou, but after only 5 minutes of shopping, he got called away by a phone call from Xiao Mingyu. Is getting burned while cooking really something to be so concerned about? Why didn't Shinjizhou react when I got burned so badly on the web of my thumb yesterday?" I asked Shinjizhou not to leave, but he said Xiao Mingyu is his subordinate, and he has a responsibility to ensure her safety. I'm his wife, yet he doesn't seem to care about me. I'm so sad. I want to throw away the sneakers Shinjizhou bought me with his first paycheck, but I can't bear to. After finishing this diary entry, a few lines down, I wrote again. "I saw the high heels Xiao Mingyu posted on WeChat Moments, with so many diamonds, so shiny. They must be really expensive." Shinjizhou didn't even blink when he gave her such expensive shoes, yet here I am feeling sad over a pair of cheap, worn-out sneakers. Darn it, I threw away my sneakers. After reading it, Shinjizhou slapped himself hard several times. The following entries were only a few days apart. "Today I went to see Shinjizhou, only to find that Xiao Mingyu had drunk all the soup I made for him. I could have let it slide that she drank it, but she even had the nerve to frown and say it tasted awful. Shinjizhou actually had the gall to treat my heartfelt gesture with such contempt. I'm never making soup for him again. He threw away the scarf I gave him. I realized I don't feel as reluctant to let go as I did the first time. Shinjizhou quickly flipped backward, all the way to the last few pages. Today I received a message from Xiao Mingyu. If before, I could still deceive myself by saying I hadn't found concrete evidence and thus didn't want to give up on Shinjizhou, then today, I can no longer pretend to be ignorant. Shinjizhou had a relationship with someone else. It's so dirty. Even without me, he can sleep peacefully. He no longer needs me. I'm going to throw away everything in this storage box. I'm going to get rid of this ill-timed child, too. Shinjizhou felt as if a great weight were crushing his heart, the pain so intense he could scarcely breathe. He continued to flip through the pages. I wanted to take the baby to Disneyland, play with it, enjoy delicious food together, just to show my last bit of love. Unfortunately, Shinjizhou was called away again by a phone call from Xiao Mingyu. It's okay, if daddy can't be with you, there's still mommy. The diary ends abruptly, and Shinjizhou is already inconsolable. He had cheated, he might have fallen in love with Xiao Mingyu for a moment, and he might have briefly forgotten the 20 years we spent together under Xiao Mingyu's companionship. However, none of this matters now. I have plunged the sharpest knife into Shinjizhou's chest. When I saw Shinjizhou again, it was half a year later. Although I had been resting quietly, I had still heard bits and pieces about him and Xiao Mingyu in the past. I was so troubled by it, and despite my many tantrums, I couldn't get him to fire Xiao Mingyu. Unexpectedly, after I completely gave up on Shinjizhou, he swiftly fired Xiao Mingyu. Naturally, Xiao Mingyu was unwilling. In her view, it was a good thing that I was willing to make room for her. Shinjizhou would be rushing to marry her, so how could he possibly want to separate from her? As a result, she went to Shinjizhou's company every day to cause a scene, but unexpectedly, one time she was seen by one of Shinjizhou's business partners. The incident between the two spread within their circle, and Xiao Mingyu's reputation was ruined. Yet, she became even more obsessively clingy to Shinjizhou. Unexpectedly, one day, in a moment of mental confusion, she was hit by a speeding car. She survived but lost a leg. She spent her days ranting insanely about wanting Shinjizhou to marry her, but he never cared for her. Her family, finding her presence inauspicious, had her committed to a mental institution. As for Shinjizhou, after leaving me, he started having sleepless nights again. Every night, he had to rely on medication to barely get a few hours of sleep. So when I saw Shinjizhou again, he was haggard and disheveled. Perhaps my gaze was too direct, for Shinjizhou pulled his cracked lips into a bitter smile. Am I really ugly now, aren't I? I averted my gaze, nonchalantly slipping my hands into my pockets to hide the scars on my wrists. Let's get the paperwork done. Shinjizhou understood my personality, so he didn't press the issue. He only spoke up when we were about to part ways. After obtaining the divorce certificate, he tugged at the hem of my clothes. Ying, is it really over between us? I turned around, looking at Shinjizhou seriously, and said softly, do you know, I regretted it on the day we went to Disneyland. I couldn't bear to part with the baby. I wanted to give birth to it, to give it a home. I thought we could talk about it, but you were called away by Xiao Mingyu. Shinjizhou was frozen in place, and after leaving those words, I turned and walked away without a moment's hesitation. His sobs seeped through his fingers and reached my ears. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow in my heart. We were once the most important people in each other's lives. We once shared an umbrella, walking through the days of torrential rain. We once held each other tightly in that damp, leaky basement, vowing to stay together forever and ever. But in the end, we still drifted apart. Shinjizhou's sobs faded away around the corner behind me. The warm spring sun lit the path ahead, but failed to warm my heart.